Welcome to the Ultimate Review. Before we start, I have an announcement. Make sure to stay tuned till the end of the video because there's going to be a big giveaway. One lucky commenter is going to receive a Serene Life 3-person towable tube for boating, inflatable towable tubes for boats, dual front and back tow points, gently used, pre-inflated to your door. I am not a smart man, but people even stupider than I am will try and convince you that the Resident Evil series is cheesy, that it's convoluted, bad. I can't help but think that these people threw the baby out with the bathwater, whatever the saying is, with this constant need for games to grow up and tell real stories for smart people. Resident Evil has got to be one of the most intellectually powerful game series ever made. Name another series that implements Hegelian dialectics in its design. I don't even know what that means. Nobody outs themselves as a king or queen bonehead harder than dunking on Resident Evil, a game for idiots and intellectuals. Mass market appeal without hamstringing its core values. Yes, it is my favorite series. Yes, it is also the best series, but then they messed it all up with one little game, and since then I don't like Resident Evil anymore. Once you're corny to me, you're on the cob forever. Resident Evil 0 is my most hated game of all time. And maybe that sounds like the typical tard on YouTube making ridiculous hyperbole. It's just a normal old Resident Evil game, right? Fixed camera angles, limited inventory. What's the big deal, you dweebs? You're always begging for pre-rendered backgrounds with your stupid tank controls. Here it is, now you're supposed to like it. No. In any other artistic medium, like movie sequels, you might get a continuation of a story, a character developed in some way, a bigger budget, better technology and equipment. Video game sequels are unique in that because they're interactive, a sequel can build on the mechanics with which you're interacting with them. It's the progression of gameplay, of how you get to consume it, how you control it, putting more choice into your hands and giving you, the person with the controller, more agency or smoothing out ideas from previous entries that set it apart from other art forms. And yes, Resident Evil 0 is a prequel to Resident Evil 1, but it is a mechanical sequel. That's what I'm talking about. So what's the deal with it? What's wrong? There was a time when Capcom was not satisfied with just porting the same games over and over onto different consoles. Resident Evil 0, from the beginning, was made with the Nintendo 64 DD in mind, and there's footage that everybody has already seen, and you can probably guess that since it never came out, things didn't go so smoothly, development-wise. On paper, Resident Evil 0 makes complete sense. This is the kind of sequel that you dream of. I mean, it sounds incredible. Resident Evil 1 has you choose between two protagonists who get split up immediately, and you're picking between two different campaigns, kind of. What if they stuck together throughout the entire game? Inventory management for Resident Evil 1 was divisive, as players wondered, why can't I just set one of these fucking herbs on the ground for one flipping second? And so in Resident Evil 0, you can put items anywhere. It seems like they ticked all the boxes of Resident Evil naysayers' complaints, and it just goes to show that most people don't have a clue what they're talking about. You know, you put these decisions in the hands of fans, you get that what was the most recent movie? Welcome to Raccoon City, where like a character will just start screaming itchy tasty because remember that from Resident Evil 1? Remember Lisa Trevor? She's Remember Lisa Trevor? She's in this orphanage now, and that's what happens. That's what you get when you let fans have any sort of creative input. And then the 64 DD failed. And then it turned out that like this 5 minutes of footage was all they had made up to that point. Oops. This is important to the actual game's plot though, I think, because it got shelved for 5 years as they waited for the GameCube to come out. During that time, Shinji Mikami asked to borrow the engine they made 0 with, made the remake of Resident Evil 1 before 0 came out, which is a weird little pattern. I think we really lucked out that everybody calls the remake of Resident Evil 1 just remake, and nobody ever calls Resident Evil 0 pre-make. And so here's a bit from an IGN UK article from 2001 that seems incredibly telling. The game's scenario writer, Flagship's Masushi Sugimura, who's also working on the scenario for the newly announced Clock Tower 3 for the PS2, commented that he wrote the scenario for the game a long time back. Recently, he was asked to make a few changes, but he couldn't remember exactly what he'd written before. This was meant to be funny. That actually does kind of make it funny. And so yeah, the story fucking sucks. It has more in common with Gaetan Dugas than it does Resident Evil 1.
Ladies, the world needs the Midnight Strike Force. Yuka, you can kick ass. Sakura, you can fold things and do magic. And Miharu, you've got glasses, so you're the smart one. Strike Force, the world needs all 6 of your tits. All of your asses and your vaginas as well. If you choose to accept this mission, stare straight ahead. Excellent.
So like I said earlier, and if the Zero didn't tip you off, this is a prequel game set hours before the events of the original Resident Evil, chronicling the ill-fated STARS Bravo team who you're sent to rescue in the first game. Let's just dip our little toes into the story, huh? In Resident Evil 1, STARS Alpha Team heads to the mountains outside Raccoon City to investigate the helicopter crash of STARS Bravo Team, most of whom they find have been wiped out in a creepy zombie mansion. So Zero puts you in the shoes of the rookie medic Rebecca Chambers right after Bravo's helicopter crash. You know, of course. How cool would it be to see what happened on that fateful night before Alpha Team arrived? The story is so natural. That'd be the first thing you'd think of to explore in a story like that if you were to expand on Resident Evil 1. Your mind swims with scenarios and like fun winks and fan service. You know, somebody could say to Kenneth, you know, something stupid like, "Oh, it's nothing to lose your head over." There could be a scene right before getting eaten by a horde of zombies. Forrest Speyer bursts into the room and blasts him with a grenade launcher. And he says, "There's a new pecking order around here." You know, he'd say, you know, because he gets pecked to death by crows, and then you find the grenade launcher on his body. It doesn't have to be so cheesy, but you would expect them to have fun with the idea, right? It writes itself. This is perfect for some good dramatic irony too. I mean, of course, the story isn't like that at all. So Rebecca Chambers, Richard Aiken, and STARS Bravo Captain Enrico Marini are the only Bravo team members who you encounter alive at all in the first game. Richard gets eaten by a snake. Enrico gets killed by the mysterious traitor in STARS.
It's Wesker. It's Wesker.
There's your main cast right there. It's perfect. Either of those guys would make a great second protagonist to go along with Rebecca in Zero. Richard could have some like cheesy referential line where he talks about how he doesn't like snakes. Or Enrico could have a line like, "What a nightmare this is, but at least I know all of my fellow STARS members have my back and would never betray me." Or hell, maybe he suspects Rebecca as a traitor, creating drama and tension between your main characters. I spent 30 seconds coming up with the most obvious shit, but it would have worked is my point. But no, instead we have Rebecca Chambers and the mysterious Billy Cohen. You can tell something is up in the first 15 seconds of this opening when they reference Sheena Island, the setting for Resident Evil Survivor on PlayStation 1. Uh-oh. Well, that's because this is made by the same people. Capcom's own Bravo team. STARS Bravo team is sent into the Arklay Mountains in search of a missing prisoner transport truck. They find it turned over sideways with the guards dead and covered in slime. Okay. No prisoner though. They split up and Rebecca stumbles across a train. The train is dark, silent. There's some atmosphere here and it's immediately foreboding. Or at least it would be. I really wish they didn't show everyone on it being killed in the opening cutscene, where you also see that the leeches are controlled by a man in a dress singing on top of a mountain outside. So, surprise, surprise, there are zombies on the train. On one hand, as far as tutorials go, you could do a lot worse. It's a fucking train. You're not overwhelmed by where you need to go. I think about the intro to Resident Evil 2 often. As a kid, it probably took me a whole weekend to even make it to the police station. It's a real crash course. Zero's train is much easier to manage. You're not wrestling with tank controls as the train cars are all straight pathways. Progress is this sort of relay race of running back and forth as far as you can go in one direction, getting a key, and almost always taking it as far as you can go in the other direction to unlock a door, to get another key item, to take as far back as you can again. After a couple of laps, Rebecca runs into Billy again. She tells him to fuck off and runs upstairs to get attacked by a pack of slugs disguised as an old man. And this scene happens. I gotta say, while Resident Evil 4 ruined the series, and Resident Evil 6 ruined the series, Resident Evil Code Veronica really ruined the series. I feel like that's the one that opened the door to this shit. But now we have both of our playable characters at the same time. Whoa, technology. With one button press, which I accidentally pushed 1,000 times, you switch to the other character, and no joke, 1 minute later, before you've even gotten your feet wet, it asks you to fix this wire or something. And without warning, whichever character you happen to be playing as is the one that gets knocked down into this room. This is bad because whoever is left to do the rescuing also has to fight a boss alone. Fighting this boss with Rebecca is brutal because she has much less health than Billy because she's a girl. Most bosses in Resident Evil games suck, in that they're less tests of gameplay competence and more tests of how well you've conserved ammo. Well, except this one. The Scorpion has a weak spot in which its attacks are cancelled if you shoot it in the face. Except your best gun at this point, the shotgun, has a 2-shot capacity and reloading takes forever. I would consider pausing and reloading from the menu to be more of an expert tactic that a new player wouldn't think to do because it's not exactly intuitive. But actually, I'm a dumbass. The shotgun is a trick. You can't use it on this boss. It doesn't work. If you just shoot it in the face with a pistol, it's the easiest fight in the world. But how am I supposed to know that? Not the first time. Eventually, you come across this cool grapple gun that's on the train so that the operator or mechanics can get onto the roof. Hey, Einstein, ever heard of a ladder? What's with this grapple gun? Train car is like, what, 10, 15 feet high? You need a gun for that? I don't get it. I mean, sure, the ladder is broken, but why would you prepare for a ladder breaking? I digress, though. This is the important thing. If you examine it, it tells you that it can lift up to 80 kilograms. Maybe the American school system failed to teach me everything I needed to know, because the fact that they mention it at all makes me think it had some bearing on gameplay. It seemed clear that, okay, I guess that means only Rebecca can use the hookshot. I thought it was cool to have this sort of asymmetric gameplay between the two characters so that they have their own strengths and weaknesses. Okay, well, I guess I'll go fuck myself. After all that, once the pair finally make their way into the engine room to stop the train, you're confronted with one of the boldest puzzles in any introductory segment. I panicked the first time I saw this because I was kind of sleepwalking through this whole section and suddenly I gotta put in a passcode. So I scrambled through all my notes thinking, okay, it must be written down somewhere. I just didn't see it. It seems like an unwritten rule that if you have to input a code in a game's first hour, you can't be timed. You can't be timed and you can't lose the game should you fail, and yet here we are. Especially if it's some kind of weird new concept the game hasn't introduced yet. So it's more of a math puzzle. Every number you input adds to a total, and you just have to make them add up to a number on the right. Twice. Okay, and then the train derails, and you're in some kind of freaky tunnel. Alright, we're getting somewhere. This is where most people's memories seem to get a little fuzzy. I mean, after all, Resident Evil 0 is often identified as, oh, the train one. So now that we're done with the train, let me just dump some of this useless stuff on the ground. Let's see. Well, the first to go is the train car hookshot, obviously. Okay, time to move on. Welcome to the Spencer Mansion sister location. Yes, a different mansion. There's just another Umbrella Mansion, like right next door. Except this one's for training Umbrella cadets? What? This is like Umbrella School to learn to be an evil Umbrella scientist? It's basically a castle. So it seems like this sister location, this, I don't even remember what this mansion's called. It's founded by a guy named Marcus, this old dude who is a slime monster now and appears all over. He's like the nemesis of the game, but he's just like an old man made out of. He's like Gooigi in Luigi's Mansion 3. Maybe this looks like it's got the backgrounds and the tank controls and everything that makes Resident Evil to some people. Classic Resident Evil has a few extremely simple but vitally important rules. And what is a game without rules? Rule number 1, every item you pick up must be consumed or put into a storage box to get rid of it. Rule number 2, all storage boxes are connected. And rule number 3, every bullet is a bullet that you choose to spend, and you must live with the rewards or consequences of that choice. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. That's what the games are about. That is the game. The zombies and monsters and stuff, that's window dressing. Resident Evil is not a zombie game, it has zombies in it. Resident Evil is a series about planning. Slow, methodical planning. Searching for clues, studying notes, looking at maps, and deciding where you want to go and how you want to get there. Do you want to cut through a hallway because it would be faster, risking damage from zombies, or spending bullets you could use elsewhere? That, or do you take the long way around because you've already cleared a path of enemies earlier? What do you take with you? You don't know what this crank is used for, but maybe you'll run into a machine it fits in. How much ammo do you think you'll need while exploring? Better take a first aid spray with you. No, a green herb, because that way, if you run into other herbs, you can combine them and then save precious space. That's the beauty. That's the charm. Resident Evil 0 is a game that breaks all of these rules, and the whole thing just falls apart because of it. You might think that being in this big, new, open environment would be where the game truly begins to shine with its partner mechanic, but in reality it magnifies all of its short-sightedness. See, you only have full control over one character at a time. The other one can be told to either follow you or stand still.
Follow me.
Okay.
I'll go.
Yeah.
You can also use a menu command to tell your partner if they should shoot enemies or not. So either they do nothing as you get eaten by a zombie, or they immediately start blasting with whatever their best weapons are, with no regard as to how the weapons are supposed to be used. As in, if you accidentally let your partner hold the shotgun, they will spam all of your shotgun ammo at long range, meaning it does no damage. Thanks. So because of this, someone has to be designated the main character. Obviously Billy, because he has the most health, so he gets all the good weapons. Rebecca can have the pistol for emergencies. So combat is a wash. But this is Resident Evil. Dodging enemies is a bread and butter tactic of the series. This, however, also sucks. See, dodging past enemies is a tight affair. They always just barely miss you as you slip by. That's the thrill. That's the skill. But you have an AI partner trailing just behind you now, so they're monster bait. But then to get them to follow you in the first place is to tell them not to shoot. So if you get hit, you're just gonna get chewed on while your partner watches anyway. You can't just go guns blazing because there isn't enough ammo for that, especially if you fight this recurring goo guy. So here's the only one true solution. Make your partner wait outside. Run through whatever shitty hallway you gotta run through, get in a safe spot, switch characters, and run through it again. In a game all about stumbling through a manor, blindly searching for items and clues, every route is automatically doubled in length. And maybe you think, okay, why do you have to have both characters go into a room? Why can't you just totally split them up then? Well, there are no storage item boxes in this game. And if Billy is holding all of the good guns and ammo for them, then Rebecca has to be holding the key items. So if you're exploring and trying to figure out where these key items go, you need her so that you can use them when you discover what room they belong to. Does that make sense? And then whatever I couldn't carry, it just made the most sense to dump all my items on the floor in the main hall. So the foyer is just littered with puzzle pieces and ammo. You might think the inventory system is restrictive in the other games, but when it's like this, with no storage boxes, where you leave an item is where it stays. You can't just pull it out of a box somewhere else. Every item has to be picked up and shuttled somewhere else by hand, manually, in your little inventories. So imagine my horror when I make it to an area after the training facility, coming to this creepy church and finding a hole in the ceiling. A hole that can only be accessed via the train car grapple gun. Oh my god. And they knew this would happen because now the training facility is repopulated at this crucial moment with zombie monkeys, the most annoying enemy in the game. Incredible. Resident Evil 0 has puzzles, but very rarely does it have anything to do with cooperation besides needing the extra inventory spaces that the second character provides. They kind of just feel like normal Resident Evil puzzles. I love this one. So you go into this study. There's a chessboard on the desk that is in the end game of what had to be the most grueling and drawn-out chess game of all time. And then someone thought it was such an important and iconic outcome that they recreated it on a giant Harry Potter-sized chessboard in the middle of the room as a puzzle. As in, make this giant room-sized chess game look like the one on my desk, and if you move the wrong one, then poison gas kills you. What the fuck kind of sense does that make? I think it's such a hack idea to be like, the Resident Evil puzzles are such nonsense. They're so weird and stupid, it doesn't make any sense. Why would anybody design a key like this in a mansion? But shit like this actually makes zero sense. It's retarded. And then the piece of resistance, there's a journal on the desk from director Marcus, the goo guy. He mentions 2 new recruits, Albert Wesker and William Birkin, as in the bad guy from the first game and the bad guy from the second game. This is so unbelievably stupid, it's amazing. It's mentioned that they are to be pitted against each other as Umbrella University rivals to make them both eviler, as evil as they can possibly be, and the best company men they can be. Just imagining them rising through the ranks together in a fucking Umbrella anime is so embarrassing. So when Sugimura said he forgot what he wrote the first time, I believe it. If this had been a 64 DD game, I'm sure it would have been much more grounded in its storytelling, but in 2001 there was so much more lore to draw from, to the game's detriment, because now it also has to be a prequel to Resident Evil 2, 3, Survivor, Code Veronica, maybe Gaiden. That's why you get scenes like this or this. It all lacks restraint that I feel made the originals great in the first place. This is one of the first Resident Evil games that drowns in its own excess and really kickstarted that whole phenomenon of why people pick on the series today. I mean, you're playing as 2 characters at the same time. You'd think, oh, of course, I've got to make them work together, but in Resident Evil 0, it insists on constantly splitting them up. It's like their entire idea to expand on the formula was to make you manage 2 health bars now and 2 inventories. It's a shame, man. I wish this game never came out. Then it might be regarded as something special. But as it stands, the game sucks, and then it ends. Thank God for that.